Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is the owner of 22nd Street Barbell. Today's guest is Wes Keith. Wes, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thanks, Quentin.
For sure. So, Wes, we're just going to jump right into things. And first of all, dude, I just want to say thank you because this is actually 10 months later, the second recording of the podcast with you. So I just want to thank you for being open and willing to do this for the second time. Last time we recorded, had an awesome 2.5 hour conversation. I go back home, I replay it. My voice sounded amazing and yours was all gargly. I had something wrong on the mic setting. So thank you for taking time 10 months later to do this again. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
so.
No problem. That's probably going to turn out to be the good one, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it was awesome.
No,
And
it was.
I've got the notes, man, from 10 months ago, so I didn't have to take any notes or anything. But no, we're gonna have a great conversation, and I'm the last conversation that we had, you're the first guest that I had outside of Colorado, so I'm really looking forward to diving in and have been looking forward to the second round. So I just want to kind of touch on some of the questions that I had for you. I asked kind of all my guests these first 4 questions as part of the conversational warm-up, so to speak, Wes. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have a specific morning routine or morning ritual that you like to stick to on most mornings?
That's a good question. I usually have appointments in the morning, so I like to just get up and get after it. Usually try to grab food as I'm going to my appointment, but no, I'm usually just trying to hustle to get to the gym quick.
Okay.
So I usually have appointments between 5:30 and 6:30 every morning.
Okay. Now, when you say appointments, you're talking about you're coaching, training people in the gym. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So, do you have a favorite book? And if there's more than one, feel free to share. But do you have a favorite book or book that you like to gift often?
Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
I think it's probably my most gifted book. Yeah, I would say that's probably number one. I mean, I could go through my list right here. It's a lot. Depends on the person. Desk Bound. I've been giving out Desk Bound quite a bit, or recommending Desk Bound quite a bit, as far as like a professional one.
Yep.
4 Agreements is phenomenal.
Okay, now I wanna ask you the Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning. It comes up on a regular basis with these conversations I have for the podcast. So, is there something from that book that you really appreciate, or something that you kind of continuously go back to, that you just kind of hold on to for your life in terms of the day to day?
I mean, we're sitting outside of the gym right now, but I think in my office I have a couple quotes written on the dry erase board. Probably just like finding meaning. I mean, I think he refers to finding meaning several times. With a man's ability to have meaning, he can get through any what. Yeah. So I think that was somewhat the quote in the book, but yeah, that's the one I think back to a lot.
So, what, and for me personally, Wes, I like to use the word purpose. Like, I feel as human beings, each of us, whether you have some sort of faith foundation or not, I feel as human beings, we all have some sort of purpose, reason, why, however you kind of want to word that, for our existence. I don't believe that we're just here for the heck of it, right? So in terms of meaning, through your life experience, what is that meaning for you? What is that purpose? What is that why? What is your meaning or purpose for existence here on this earth?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal question. I think about that often. I think it changes over time. I think it's changed a ton over time. And I think if I could have a bunch of different purposes and meanings by the time I leave this earth, I think I want a long list of stuff I want to do, and I want to, start checking some stuff off, but I want to leave a lot on there, you know, because I want to do a lot. So, but I think the biggest meaning that I've taken away from my 40 years here is just building relationships with people. You know, I mean, I'm probably most known for the gym and stuff like that, but that's, to be honest, it's like a pretty small part of my life.
Right,
you know?
right, yeah.
That's just what people know me as, but relationships, you know, like just having really good connection with my family and friends.
Right, yeah.
Like deep, meaningful friendships, you know. That's probably what I've taken away so far, and I don't think that's going to change. You know?
Right, of course.
But the laundry list of stuff that you do when you do it, you forget to. You forget to eat. You know, you're so into that activity that you become obsessed with the minute details that you forget to eat, and then you forget to, you know, the next thing you know is like, shit, I gotta go to sleep. You know, like that's the stuff, you know, that lights me on fire, and I lots of stuff that does that for me. Like there's so much stuff that
for sure,
like shit, I could live 10 lives and like love to do all this.
Right, yeah. So like. You know, outside of just like the relationship side of things, like, you know, because you said like you feel like, you know, maybe your meaning changes, you know, through the seasons of life or at different times in life, there's different meaning. Like as we sit here today, like what do you feel outside of the relationship thing? Like what do you feel like your purpose or your meaning is? Like what is that thing right now that, you know, when you do it, like you forget to eat and it sets your soul on fire? Like just presently, what do you feel like that is, or what is it?
I mean, we just started. I just started running again. I'd ran a 50K last year.
Yeah. And
I'd quit in November, and I just started. Well, was lifting the whole time, and just was focusing on my lifting until this week. And we started introducing like a 4-week sprint plan just to get back into shape to be able to do an actual sprint workout.
Right.
So really easy ramp on. And I started recruiting some people, and it was like, I think we had 9 people here this morning doing it, and I was like, community. I mean, the word community just comes back to me so much. I think that's my real purpose, is to be a recruiter, you know, is to, and in whatever vessel that is, whether it's sprinting or lifting weights or, you know, coming with me to church, or I don't know what that is, but it's definitely, that's what fulfills me. I mean, that's, you know, if I can do it with a group of people to go hike somewhere or to plan a trip, or like, that's it. I'm into it, and I'm just like, I forget to eat. You know, like,
right?
Yeah.
It's
like,
cool.
Yeah, that's it. Community.
I like it, man. It's beautiful. All right. So, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, or word? And again, if there's more than one, feel free to share.
Man, put me on the spot with that one. Yeah, I'm sure I do. I just can't think of any on the top of my head right now. You know, if we were in my office, I could probably flip through 10 of them right now. But yeah, I think a term that I just like ran across recently, that it's maybe not so much of a mantra, but that I was thinking about just last week is learned helplessness. So to learn helplessness, you know, we are taught to depend and kind of point the finger and you know, blame, and so I think about the extreme ownership. Yep. I think about owning all the situations in my life, and I can't maybe control the event, but I control my response to that event.
Absolutely.
And therefore I can affect the outcome. But I think about owning up to, you know, all my wrongs. But definitely extreme ownership is probably, you know, that's Jocko Willachek's thing. But that rings true, like probably daily. I think about something like that. Just step up and own it, you know.
Good stuff, man. Awesome. Okay. Do you have a favorite or most listened to podcast?
Yeah, I listen to Rogan often. Haven't in a while. I do ebooks mostly lately, but probably Joe's stuff.
Okay.
Jocko's is pretty good. But I'll listen to a range of things. I spend 90% of my stuff on social media is on YouTube, so I'll do like product reviews of stuff. So, but no specific podcasts. No,
okay.
I can't.
Cool. No, that's good. And Joe Rogan, he's obviously, he comes up often too,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
because
sure.
it's such a, I mean,
He's the modern day. He's a Broprah. You know, he's the male Oprah.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I
love that. I've never heard that
he's a
term
Broprah.
before. That's good, man. But yeah, and he brings on anybody and everybody in terms of just like, he's not just focused on one, you know, like fitness or, you know, nutrition or this or that. It's like, hey man, like, come on and share. So it's really cool. I love that broad spectrum of his guests. So
For sure.
Okay, so I just kind of want to transition Wes into you know, your backstory a little bit. I don't want to get too much into the backstory in terms of like where you grew up, because I really want to step into just like who you are today and just the story of 22nd Street Barbell and just kind of that iron journey, right? But just you know, to give a little a snapshot for myself and my guests, if you don't mind sharing, where did you grow up, and just touch on, you know, just a little bit of those younger years, and then maybe just transition into where did strength training, where did lifting weights and all of that come in, and then we'll just kind of we'll move along your story from there.
Yeah, I grew up in Southeast Iowa, Tacoma, Iowa.
Okay.
Graduated high school in 1998. At a younger age, my parents had split, so I'd lived with my mom in town, and then my dad in the country. So I kind of got a white collar experience and a blue collar experience,
okay,
you know, mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
But Tacoma is one of these towns where we're a river town, and we had started competing with the Des Moines schools, which were our same size, but they were a little bit bigger than us. I'd say we were still 4A, but we considered them like the big schools. You're going to the big town, you know, like so. So we always had like something to prove, you know. We always had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. So anybody that comes from Tacoma usually has like a little bit of like a I'm going to show you mentality.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I definitely I think that was important to have from my youth.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to school at Iowa State, so I left there. Went to school at Iowa State. Was kinesiology there. Had tons of good experiences there. And then we moved to started working for the railroad at a college. And at this time we just started powerlifting. So I did my first powerlifting when I was 16.
Okay.
And in college, say about 22, 23, right out of college, I started getting really serious about it. So it's like, okay, what can I do to just be the best lifter I can possibly be? And that was kind of my mindset. And I wanted to compete. I wanted to hire coaches. I wanted to talk to people about it. I wanted to talk to better coaches and better athletes. And a lot of this is before the internet. So we didn't have, you know, you just call people.
Yeah.
I remember calling up a good athlete, a really good athlete at a world level, and got his information and just cold called him. And I'm just like, hey, will you work with me? And he's like, no. He's like, I'm too busy. And I'm like, I'll pay you, you know, like whatever, you know, please. I read all your blogs, you know, I would love for you to work with me. So he finally said yes, and I was his only client for like 2 years. But I learned a lot just by just the desire to get better. Forced you to ask a lot of questions to a lot of good people. But that was occurring when I was at Iowa State. Did a little bit of coaching at that time. Had a chance to coach some youth basketball. And one of the athletes was Harrison Barnes, who was an NBA lottery pick. So I had him from 4th through 7th grade.
Cool.
So you're touching on like being around greatness at a young age.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped shape my mindset a lot, being around that group of athletes at that time.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we fully kind of leave the childhood, I'm assuming, because I'm from, you know, a smaller town in northwest Iowa, you know, and when you're from a small town, or when you're kind of from Iowa, it's like, you know, you play sports, you drink beer, you know, you drive on the country roads, right? So was sports a pretty big part of your life, and did it really shape who you were, you know, growing up?
Yeah, I believe, you know, like we were just thinking about this the other day with a high school classmate. You know, we had two crowds. It was kind of like the party crowd and then the sports crowd.
Yep.
And I was always in the sports crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I was not much of a weightlifter in growing up. I wanted to. I was a runner. I ran long distance, ran year round.
Okay.
ran cross country, ran 800s in track. So that was my main thing. Was a huge basketball fan. Didn't play basketball. Was a huge football fan. Didn't play football, but I ran year round. So
cool.
But yep, that was a massive part of growing up with sports, and just being a fan, like
of
a
course,
super
yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
Growing up in the '90s and the NBA was just, Jordan was in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
They were all heroes. And then you read Flex magazine and all the bodybuilding magazines, and I remember like cutting out like the bodybuilding workouts and putting them on my wall.
That's awesome.
And just like down in the gym, like I had like here's the chest workout, Jay Cutler's chest workout.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's we go there and try to do whatever.
Oh yeah.
But that was instilled in me at a young age. My dad had was competing in powerlifting at that time.
Oh, okay.
So I was exposed to weightlifting, but it was never like, hey, I'm gonna go lift weights.
For sure.
Like it just never even occurred to me. Like that was the thing.
Okay, so now what did the running, because you mentioned running the 50K. I believe you said you did that last year, and I follow you on social media, and I see your stories, and you're doing all these pretty intense hikes and different things like that. But going back to the running, because it's kind of also bringing us up to current day as well. But in the past, what did running do for you when you go running? Like when you were younger and stuff, was it kind of like just a an outlet for you? Because I know a lot of people that love running, especially long distance. It can be like meditative, and you just kind of get lost in it. What did running specifically do for you at that younger age, Wes?
Man, just recently going through this for the last year and a half, it brings back a lot of that from growing up. But I remember going to track practices and being so fucking nervous about what I had to push my body to do that I would puke before I started.
Yeah. And
I wasn't nervous whether I could do it. I was nervous whether I was going to let my body push to that level. And it's like the build up to it, it's the hardest point. But once you're actually in it and experiencing it, it's not that bad. You can endure it, but just building your mind to let go of it was huge. I look back at that and I'm like, now I think about my, having to run 20 miles on a day. Like you look back at that and you're like, yeah, that's definitely the hardest part. That hasn't changed at all. It's still there.
Right. Yeah.
So I think, definitely running is. There's not quite like it. And, I've done a lot of stuff in a lot of different directions, but nothing quite like really pushing yourself running wise. Like, I'm like trying to squeeze the orange as hard as you can possibly squeeze
it.
Yeah.
Now, do you thoroughly enjoy running? Because like for me, like when I was younger, I ran 800s, I ran 1600s, 3200, done the 10Ks, half marathon, all that stuff. But I'm naturally, I would say, good at long distance running endurance, but I don't like it. I mean, it messes up with my mind and some of the different things I have internally. I don't like it. But so is it something that you feel like you need to do to maybe prove something or to push yourself in a certain way, or is it something that you genuinely enjoy doing?
Yeah, that's I thought about that a lot as I'm training for a 50K, right?
Right, yeah, of course.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is I don't ever remember growing up and thinking, man, I can't wait to go to track practice.
Right.
Man, I can't wait to go run this the cross country meet. Like it was never, but I was good at it.
Of course, yeah.
So I got a lot of attention for being good at it. So I think it boils down to some significance, and at a man at a young age in Southeast Iowa that was 130 pounds, significance is a big deal. So I think that just the pressure to prove that I'm worthy of something, like kind of made me do a lot of that, and I think that comes from an insecurity, about yourself that we create, and for whatever reason, I was willing to do something about that, and for me it was just running my guts out.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I was probably running scared more than I was confident, you know?
Right, right.
But I've had moments where I've been really confident with it, and I've had moments where it's just flowing really smooth. So yeah, I would say that's changed over time. You know, I appreciate it more now.
Yeah.
I'm not a 16-year-old trying to, you know, live my life off significance, but you know, but still a pretty powerful thing. You know, like
Of course.
you know, you say, hey, I want to run a 50K, and then all of a sudden you start to you know, push the limits. You know, like why did I say a 50K, and why do I have to tell people? Why can't I just go do it? You know, well, the act of telling people, you get something out of that. You know, so it's like
of course.
it holds you accountable to it, but it also it makes you feel good, man. And people start to recognize you as a guy that's kind of pushing the limits and doing things, and so then you're maybe holding that standard up, you know. And I would think once you get to the point, and my whole goal is to run 100, and I still think I'm going to someday, but it's got to be for different reasons. It's got to be just because I truly want to do it, you know. Like, I'm not trying to hold up a standard or anything, you know, like somebody else's viewpoint of me. But yeah, that's I think once you push it so far, all those things work to a certain level, but once the level gets so hard, it doesn't fucking matter. You gotta like want it to your fucking core, you know, like you gotta just want this damn thing so bad that it doesn't matter.
Right,
like
right, yeah.
It just doesn't. So.
What's you know, what do you feel for you personally? Because obviously everybody's different, has a different perspective. But for you personally, Wes, what is the value? What is the importance of a human being? You, what's the value? What's the importance of you, Wes? You know, pushing yourself into the uncomfortable. We you know, with social media and just, you know, media in general, and everybody's talking, everybody's trying to, you know, put this out and that out and everything. And, you know, you hear like, oh, you got to pursue the uncomfortable. And I say it because I understand the importance and the value for me personally, but, you know, getting past all the cliche stuff, you know, what is the value and the importance for you in pursuing the uncomfortable? What does it do for you? What does it teach you?
Yeah, it's good. We talk about this a lot, and you know, lifting. And,
of course. Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I think my perspective has maybe changed a little bit on it. But I don't really think that it's ever just like I'm pursuing the uncomfortable. I do things that are uncomfortable, but it's doing the details. You're so, once you're committed to the thing that it is you want to do, whether it's squatting the most amount of weight or running the furthest distance you could possibly run, you get immersed in the details. And in these details are like the foundation for this whole thing. You know, this is the work that you're going to put in, and this is the grind. You know, this is the mucky stuff. But I don't ever think like, hey, I got to do that like shitty work, like that gritty work. Like I just think like get into the details of it, like really like break it down to the point of like you're obsessively breaking it down, you know, like but so if my focus is on the details and I'm never really thinking about the end result, I never think, hey, I want to squat 600 pounds or hey, I want to run 50 miles, you know. But if I'm just thinking about today's workout,
absolutely,
you know, like I have a plan, I have a long-term plan, I have a plan, and I trust that plan that's going to get me there. But my focus and intention is always on that day's training, and I'm not. I trust the plan will, you know, and I can maneuver, and the plan's flexible enough. I can change it as I go, but I trust the process, and I trust that all my results are in the details. So I just think obsessing over the details forces you to do all the uncomfortable stuff. Because if you don't, you know you've half-assed the whole thing. And once you've committed, you can't live with half-assing the little stuff. Because you're going to be out there running and you'll be like, yeah, but you cut this workout short, you cut this workout short. So the end goal is really irrelevant. You know, like whether you ran the 50 miles or not, if you put all the work in to do it, the actual end process is irrelevant in my mind. It's it's the process of going about it with the best of your ability that I think. So I don't really think about like the uncomfortable.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I just think about the details.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now in this, getting into the details, focusing on the details, and being, I'll use the word neurotic about just like, just getting into it, right? Trusting the process and all of that. Now, does that create for you at times, or has it at times in your life, has that created any type of internal turmoil in the sense of like, I've got to be so into this that maybe it creates some like anxiety or creates some, internal pressure, or again, I like to use the word turmoil, because you're like, I'm so neurotic. I've got to do it like this so much, and you're kind of maybe you just tense up so much. Does that ever like get to you? Does that ever mess you up internally, or are you just kind of like just day by day, just do the next thing, kind of chill, mellow, go with the flow? Would you touch on that if you don't mind?
Yeah, you're a wise dude. You've done some stuff. You know all this. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Anybody that goes down that route, that it's like. I tell my athletes, it's you can't want it enough that you're going to strangle it to death.
Right.
Right? It's like wanting a girl so much you scare it away. Right? So the actual attaining it is to almost let go of it. Surrender to it. Surrender to the goals. Surrender to the process. But I think long term, and here's how my brain works long term with this, is I think in terms of chunking my energy. I know that my ability to focus and push at a really high level is only done in a short amount of time. I probably have a month, maybe 2 months, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, maybe 16 weeks of really pushing at something. And then I need to back off. So I have mesocycles where are more intense. And that draws from other areas of my life. It draws from relationships. It draws from work. It draws from social activities. It draws from every other area of my life. So my wagon wheel and sense of wholeness gets skewed to that one thing. But I've created a life where I can do that. I've created a life where I can, now if you just took the average person or the average 9-to-5er and they just wanted to really push to some extreme, they're going to be getting a lot of kickback from why are you so intense? Why are you so, this is the environment I've created. The people around my inner circle understand this and appreciate this. But I've learned that it's chunks. And I used to, in the youth, just try to be that all the time, 24/7.
Right.
And it'll run you into the ground, mentally and physically. So you got to learn there's chunks of focus. And I'll do build-ups. So once I'm done with that chunk, I'll have an R&R. Where I'll just relax and just let my body recover. And I'll do some fun, lighthearted blocks of whatever it is. It might be some hikes or just different things that I've always wanted to do.
Cool.
But yeah, anybody who's been down that road, and it's like you're choking it to death.
Yeah.
To actually obtain it is to let go of it. It's to surrender to it and not try to, I'm going to force my will upon it. Yeah.
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 Yeah, man. It just there's so much stuff, man. Because even you're talking about track and stuff, and I was a very good track athlete, and I only lost once in the 1600 in 7th and 8th grade, but that's where for me this anxiety and this internal turmoil started. Was I call it kind of now performance anxiety, because it's you start getting good at something, you're naturally good at something, and then you get that positive reinforcement through the parents, the coaches, and you get these accolades, and then it's for me, because I can be very regimented and very neurotic, and then it just creates this turmoil and this anxiety and this pressure, and then it's just when you're a developing tween or teenager, you don't know how to handle all that stuff, man. And there was times in my own life as I got older, even when I was in college, I didn't even want to get out of bed because the mental hurdles, because my lifting weights and my training was my everything, man. I was holding so tightly onto it, kind of like you said, like I didn't know how to let go. And I was like, dude, like every workout's got to be like, I've got to have an awesome leg workout. And if I don't have an awesome leg workout, the rest of the week's ruined. And it's just like, dude, it just builds and builds to the point where I was like, I'm a sophomore in college in South Dakota. I didn't even want to get out of bed, Wes, because the mental hurdles to try to make it through that day, it was just overwhelming. And I always forced myself to get out, but it's like, I love that perspective where you said, like, you know, you got to let go. Like, if you really want to attain it, it's just like letting go of things. And I've had to learn that myself, because it's like, dude, like if you live in that pressure cooker your whole life, like it's not going to work, man. You're going to explode. Like you're going to go nuts. So I just love that picture of just letting go, man. And there's so much power in just letting go and just really like living in that moment, right?
I think it takes a long time, a lot of experiences to come full circle on that one, you know. That's a really tough one. But like something that struck me with what you said there is you're talking about early on when you had like what the nervousness to perform, right? Mm-hmm. Like we set expectations for ourselves, you know,
right.
Maybe what we think we're capable of, you know, and 9 times out of 10, those are always limiting beliefs anyways, you know? So like we're always capable of way more than we think in our head. So it's like letting go of all of this is such a wise way to look at it, you know,
absolutely.
But it's really tough in the sense of like that doesn't mean that we don't lack a focus or attention to detail. Doesn't mean that we don't lack, but just this idea that I'm going to force my will upon this thing. It's like trying to swim versus just relaxing and swimming, right? So, you know, once you just kind of flow with it, it starts to become fun again. You know, like I think we lose the fun in some of this stuff. You know? Well, we're not professional athletes here. You know, we're not paid professional athletes, right. So it's like, let's get back to just relaxing and having fun here and trusting the process. You know, and for me, fun is taking it serious. I was a guy growing up that didn't want to play a game if it wasn't like official. Like I didn't want to play any sports games or video games if it wasn't like just like it is in real life. You know? I didn't want the cartoon version of anything. So like I enjoy taking stuff serious, and I enjoy focusing on just the problem of how do I get better? How do I get my body to do that thing? Like, what do I need to do that thing? But I've learned to enjoy myself along the way.
For sure.
But just really so much more than before is just, well, before I was always just looking at where I needed to go. And I was always just, I'll be there, you know? And now it's more just like, okay, that's where I want to go. Where am I at right now? And then what do I need to do today? You know, so and that's what really gives me a ton of purpose is this I'm inching towards that thing that I want, but I know that I'm just maximizing my today to do it, you know. But it takes so much pressure off you once you quit looking at that big daunting mountain out there.
Absolutely.
And you just focus on these steps that you're taking right now. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's some awesome, powerful insight. I appreciate that. Okay, I really want to kind of just you know dive into kind of like what I call like your iron journey, so to speak, right? So you mentioned your dad was doing some powerlifting, so you were at least exposed to weights, you know, at a pretty young age. If I remember correctly, you mentioned earlier in our conversation that your first powerlifting meet was when you were 16. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you just maybe share a little bit of like, kind of like, you know, you see your dad, you know, doing his thing, but when did you kind of like say like, okay, I want to step into this. This is something that I want to kind of try. And then I would just love to have you share kind of like how, you know, that journey has unfolded, you know, over the years in the sense of powerlifting, lifting weights. What does it mean to you? What does it do for you? Kind of just all the things that you would just kind of like to share from your heart.
Yeah, I remember doing that first meet. It was a push-pull. I think my dad hosted the damn thing.
Okay.
And he signed me up and I was bench pressing at the time, but I'd never deadlifted. He goes, I signed you up for both. And I'm like, what do you mean both? I had no idea what both meant. But he said, I signed you up for the bench press and the deadlift. I'm like, well, I've never deadlifted. I don't know what to do. He goes, you just got to pick it up. So just got to pick it up. No formal coaching, nothing. Just go pick it up.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what weight? And I think I opened it I think it was 225 at the time. And I think I did that in the gym before the event to know what weight to lift in the event, right? Like that's what. And I think I went to 225, 315, 405. I pulled 405 the first time I pulled. And I think that was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. And that was like the kind of the first like little like, oh, like I got a little bit of attention for being good at that. And I remember doing a meet where it was a full power meet. And it was my first one where I had a squat. And I'm not even sure I even trained for these damn things. I think I just signed up and did them, on a whim. But I don't ever remember training for one as a kid.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember squatting, and there was maybe 225 or 275 in the bar, and I remember shaking like a leaf. And this back spotter, who's a good friend now, but was laughing at me at the time, and he's probably 10 years older than me, but he was laughing at me as I went to squat. But I remember thinking, I'm not very good at that, right? So, fast forward that into college, and equipped powerlifting started coming around. So these were suits that you wore. You wore these big briefs, and you wore these big squat suits, and you wore these shirts that fit over the front of your arms and were open in your back, and that helped you lift a lot of weight. And we started getting into that, and I liked it because I didn't have to squat. I was like, sweet, I can just... Bench press only was a big deal. So for a good 10 years, I didn't squat at all. And that's why my squat still today is probably behind my other lifts. I train the hell out of it now. But I had a decade of just shirt bench pressing, and that's where powerlifting is such a weird, obscure thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid to late 90s. It was like cult backyard thing, Our group of multiply guys were guys that probably didn't want to meet in any other aspect of your life, right? Like they were some shitheads, and that's what we all were. We didn't care. We'd go into gyms and we'd take over gyms and we'd do our thing, and we just want to lift weights. Seriously, we lived to lift weights on the weekends, man. And every Saturday we'd have a big crew, and it would grow from like 3 or 4 guys to, I think we had 30 guys on a bench press one weekend. Like it would take 4 or 5 hours to get everybody through. We had guys pressing 900 pounds to 1,000 pounds on boards. One of the guys holds multiple world records. It was insane. We had an intense group, but it was just this. It was the mindset of whatever it is we had to do to get better, we would have done it. It didn't matter. I learned a lot from that experience, but I'm glad I survived that experience, right?
For sure, yeah.
Because a lot of them didn't. A lot of them don't do anything or back in jail. But that was my early powerlifting, and then powerlifting started to change from multiply. That multiply required that you had teammates around you. You had to have people to help you, assist you to get in and out of these suits and move and handle the weight. So it required, like when we'd have a bench press day, it required that everybody showed up. So we became very tight knit, and who we let in our group was very, very minimal. We didn't let anybody in the group. So we were close. That was family. And that started to shift. The whole sport started to shift to raw. So whether it was raw with wraps and it started with wraps, just wrap squatting, no suits, belt, wrist wraps, and knee wraps. Honestly, when you went to the meet in the late 90s, there was nobody raw. You were the weirdo if you did anything wrong. So, and then now it's like no one's multiply. But that early perspective of handling equipped lifting kind of like led to the start of our gym in the sense of, hey, let's all meet to bench press. Let's all meet. So that initial crew that we met, some of us still hung on and kept training together. Even when we were raw, we were still training together.
Right.
And so more people were joining, and more people were joining. And eventually the gym, we ended up getting our own little spots. And I can go into that whole story of the process of the gym. But mainly that the story of where powerlifting has evolved to. But that early stages of multiply, that was in my mindset, was on that goal. I remember going to bed and having 600 like written on the wall, because that's what I wanted to bench press, right? Like it was like I would just stare at it and think about it like obsessively, you know, like
yeah.
I mean, we had guys that would headhunt in world records, you know, like guys, there was a ranking, and it was a big deal to be ranked in this website. And we had guys that were like, you know, in the top 5, and they'd have everybody's name listed above them. And we hated those guys, you know, like this is what, you know, God, this was what it was, man. Very competitive. But I think that was a big deal early on in order to lay the foundation for what we have now.
Okay, so, and I want to get into, you know, the 22nd Street story, but I really, before we go there, I really want to just draw out your own personal story. So, you know, you have your first meet at 16. What did, and once you kind of like in your heart, in your mind, Wes, are like, you know what, I like this thing. I'm going to pursue this. You know, we all kind of have different points in our lives where we're just like, you know what, I'm taking my life in this direction, right? So what was that initial kind of step into powerlifting, into lifting weights, you know, before you kind of like got connected with your crew and kind of, you know, got into that scene, you know, what were some of those feelings? What were some of those emotions? What was kind of going on inside of you internally in terms of just going to the gym and lifting weights? Was it just like, just something you really truly fell in love with and kind of set everything to the side? Just share a little bit of like what, you know, lifting weights, powerlifting, all of that whole scene. What did that do for you at that younger age?
When I remember once I was out of college, and I was doing it through college, but never at like a highly competitive level. And I say highly competitive, I mean like committing 100% to the process.
Right.
I just remember being like 22, 23 and thinking, all right, I want to be good at this. Like, what is it do I need to do? You know, who do I need to talk to?
Yeah.
I started to ask better questions to better people. Maybe I look back at it, maybe not the right questions, but they were the necessary ones for the time, right? But that, I think once I made that commitment, everything else in my life got shifted to number 2. Was below it. That was early on when we just had transitioned out of multiply into raw lifting, and I'd started doing some meets and I was getting better every meet, and I think I had a pretty decent meet at one of the nationals, and at the time you could look up your rankings, and I was ranked top 5 in my weight class, and you look back at that now you wouldn't be barely ranked, you know, like top 30, you know, it's so good. You know, the sport's so good right now.
For sure.
It's insane. But just that was so important, like looking at the rankings, like just chasing those. I don't think if we didn't have those rankings, we wouldn't have done a lot of stuff we've done. And I say we, there was a group of guys that just got after this. So we're all like highly committed. This was our like going out to the bar in the weekend. This was our social thing. This is what we did, man. Like, and we trained to compete in these meets. And so it had a massive amount of meaning in my life. Probably an unhealthy amount of meaning in my life, you know. But at the time, it was definitely all my identity was wrapped up into, you know, into powerlifting. And I was okay with that. I kind of had like just this pretty shithead attitude about it, to be honest with you. Like I was just a middle finger for probably a lot of people, like that. And I I just didn't want anything to get in my way, you know, and that's just what it was, you know, like back in my early 20s, pursuing this, you know. I look back at that and I'm like, I'm glad I survived all that, you know. I'm glad I still have good friends from that, you know, like I didn't create too many enemies from that, you know, but that was our pursuit. So yeah, the question you asked, it was everything. I mean, it was truly, at one point, it was literally, I thought about it morning and night.
Yeah.
It's still massively important to me. Not the same though.
Yeah.
Not the same. A lot more balance in my life, a lot more. The will has come out a little bit more in different areas of my life. So, but I'm very thankful for that pursuit during that time. I'm very thankful for that pursuit during that time. I'm very thankful for not having the internet during that time, because we just didn't know any better.
Right.
Now you have the internet, and when you go to try, you can know that you're not the best. We thought we were the fucking best.
Right.
Dude, we were some bad dudes that we just thought we were. You know, like, we had no idea whether we were or not. We had no clue what it meant to be good at a world level or a national level. So, but in our little pond, we were it. So we kind of lived that little lie for a while, whether, you know, but that was massively important, this belief that you could do something, you know?
Right, yeah.
Now that gets squished with, you know, you think, hey, you know, there was that meme that, you know, had a guy was talking about pressing 225 for the first time, and then it said, let me get on the internet, and it's Larry Wheels holding 225 in each arm with the middle of the bar pressing them.
That's
you know, like,
funny.
you're like,
Yeah.
you're like, geez.
It's
You know,
nuts.
like, yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
So, and I think that deters a lot of people in the beginning, you know, where I was thankful we didn't have that. You know, it was tough. It was tough to get on the internet, and we probably had flip phones in that time. And I remember videoing exercises, and it was never to put them on social media. You know, it was the video to watch to see what you were doing. Right. Like, it was from a perspective of, I want to get better, not a perspective of, look at me. You know, like. So, and it was a lot of painstaking process to video. Like, it was a tripod you had to set up, and the big VHS cam, you had to rewind on this little screen.
Yeah.
And then we'd go home and, like, edit it and, like, edit our whole workouts together. Like, and it would, it's a fucking nightmare. But, like, that would take all day just for bench press. You know, I'm very thankful for that time. And just thinking back to that, like, all the things that we had to do for that, we wouldn't do half that stuff now, you know?
Right. And is it fair to say, Wes, that being a part of this culture, this community, in your early 20s, is it fair to say that maybe really is where you've gained that perspective of maybe some of your meaning in life, in terms of maybe leading a culture or leading a community, and why that's so important and valuable to you in your life pursuits?
Yeah, it had a big impact. The brotherhood of those guys in the very beginning. I mean, they became like family. You know, we trained so much together, so hard, and we pushed so hard. It did become like family. But I would say the foundation of that did start at home. You know, I have a big family on my dad's side, and it's a pretty small family on my side, but we're really close. And it was always, we grew up on 2,000 acres, and we had 4 or 5 aunts and uncles that lived around us, and we call it like kind of like the Keith compound. People would joke about being the Keith compound, but it was the door was always open. You know, it was always community. Everything was community. So. And then going through college, I lived in a fraternity with 64 guys in a house. So the idea of sharing and community were just intertwined. So when I went to do something, I just recruited as many people as I could to do it. Right. It was just kind of ingrained, you know. And it's still, I'm 40 years old, and we were just talking about that this morning, just recruiting people to do stuff with you. Yeah. And I think, so yeah, that played a huge role into the lifting side of it. But I think that was instilled probably from early on in my youth.
Beautiful. I want to bring up a name, and I want you just to kind of share a little bit about him. Dale Rhoades is somebody that during our first conversation, I brought him up. just because like when I was younger and competing, my path kind of crossed his or whatever at his gym, Des Moines Strength Institute, right? I did a meet there, and I was telling you the story because I had some pictures I showed you here before we started the podcast. But I remember seeing him in like this back room of his gym. It was a Saturday morning. We're doing this powerlifting meet, and he had, I don't know, it looked like 700-800 pounds on his back when I was 13 years old, or I think I was younger. But he would walk it back out, and then he would just rack, and I'm like, man, I was like, whoa, what's that guy doing? But I know that in this Des Moines, Iowa area, for powerlifting and stuff, he's paved the way. And I would just love to have you speak a little bit what, in terms of Dale, means to you and just your development as a power lifter and as a man.
Without Dale Rhoades, I'm not sitting here talking to you. In the sense of he laid the foundation in this community for strength. And there were some other ones along the way, but Dale was like one of the first ones to really make an impact here in Des Moines. Without that, we don't have this gym.
Right,
so,
right.
So for that, so much respect for Dale and what he's done and is still continuing to do, which is amazing. He's people are like, oh, you've done this for so long. And in my head, I'm like, I haven't done this for very long.
Right.
I look at Dale and I'm like,
right.
He's done this for literally forever.
Yeah.
Like forever. So massive amount of respect for somebody like that. And I can't even put myself in that category, like with like Dale, like of people who have made an influence on strength, because he's helped so many people who have helped to coach or help other athletes. So his impact just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading. It's unbelievable. I mean, look, think about all the people you've taught.
Right.
So it's like he's awesome, man. I think last time I saw him, he was still walking out. Like I want to say it was 600 or 700 pounds. It's always loaded, and he walks it out.
Yeah.
And he has it down of how many days he's done this in a row. Over 60, he's done it. Over the age of 60, how many times he's done this, and he's unbelievably good with numbers, and and just really, really caring. When you're around somebody that just you truly wants to make you better, and doesn't need to have the credit from it.
Right.
That's Dale Rhoades. Yeah, he's phenomenal. And some of the guys that I first was around that were I was looking up to were coached by Dale Rhoades.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's insane.
And I think that's
he's a legend. Let's just say
right.
He's a legend.
And I think that is more common with people from previous generations in the sense of I think of the guy Dave Lawrence that taught me how to deadlift and powerlift and stuff. I mean, he was a Vietnam vet, a Marine, old school hardcore, and it's like I'm just this little kid in this gym, right? But he knew because the owner of the gym, Ralph, told him that I listened and I would do exactly what he would tell me and stuff, And so Ralph kind of introduced me to Dave, and he taught me how to powerlift and stuff. But it's just he didn't do it for Instagram. He didn't do it for any recognition or anything like that. It's just I think for Dave it was just, and I'm sure it's the same way with Dale. It's just there's a joy in passing on your life experiences and your knowledge to other people, especially that next generation that you think maybe they're going to carry that on. You know what I mean? Is that fair to say that you think maybe the younger generations, you see that a little, or previous generations, you see that a little bit more of it's not about anything except for just, really wanting to pass something on to somebody else. Do you think that's fair?
I think you get to the point of where that's, maybe not every coach or mentor got to that point. But,
right.
Maybe it was a money thing in the beginning. Maybe it was, learning thing in the beginning. But I think at some point you look at somebody, you look at an athlete and say, I could really help this athlete. And you don't need to have the credit from that, but you just really feel compelled to help. And with what you can do, what you can say, and what you can do for that person could make a huge impact. And just recently had this experience where I just kind of went above and beyond for somebody that I just had a quick encounter with, and just casually wrote out this plan, and it honestly didn't take much of my time, but and I've done this a lot, but this one I was like, I knew I could help, like I just like, you just know I can help, like, and I know I could, like, this kid wanted to do a certain thing, and I just like, yeah, you can do that. Here's your plan, right? And it was never about money. It was never about, but just like, I felt so compelled to like do that. Like, I had this information that this kid needs, right? Like, I have to give it to this kid. Like, so I feel that a lot lately. If I go too deep into it and I'm stuck into it too much, I lose some of that, you know? So this is where the COVID has been really, really good. It's let me pull back some. So we really appreciate this is what I did when I started. This is what I wanted to do, you know? This would make the little kid in me really happy, you know, that I just did that. Like, so this is like coming back to that versus saying, all right, I got these 10 appointments so I can make money. Right. The money's important. Money's massively important. But what's going to give it meaning, what's going to make you do it for a long time, and what's going to really make the impacts, or just not, who cares who gets the damn credit? Like, I don't want the credit at all. Like, I don't care that you even mentioned that you ever coached by me. Like, it doesn't. That does not matter to me one bit. I know that I have information that I could give you that can make you better, and that's the important thing, that I relay that information. So that, like, that is huge. And the COVID has been really good for that, because it's allowed us to pull back a little bit.
Of course.
You know, and to, okay, I have 4 appointments today versus 14 appointments today, right? It's like, I look at these 4 way different. I bring a whole different energy to these 4 appointments. You know?
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, that's just coming full circle of like, okay, I have a gift to help somebody, you know? So I remember a lot of coaches, you know, I look back and like, why did they spend that time with me? Why did they do that? Because they had that information in me. You know, they could see that I wanted that information out of them, you know, and I can see that in athletes now, and I love spending time around that. I feel blessed to be able to do that, you know.
It's good, man, because like that's just like, you know, as I look back on my childhood mentors that taught me how to lift weights and stuff, it's like, you know, like with Dave, it's just like, I was a kid, dude. Like I was 12, 13 years old. I wasn't paying him any money. And it's just like, and he's like this old school hardcore dude, man. Him and a couple other guys are, you know, every Saturday morning they're doing their deadlifts and the chalk and all this stuff over in the gym. Like nobody goes and talks to him, and kind of the tough, rough outer shell. But it's like I've always told people, it's like once you step into you know, that circle of Dave and his dudes or whatever, it's like all he wanted to do, because he knew I was going to listen to him. He knew if I told him to deadlift this way or squat this way or to make this change, like, I'm going to do it. And it's like, you know, I think as adults we get we get hard-hearted sometimes. We get jaded sometimes because people do, you know, people are asses and people do mistreat us. People do whatever, all this stuff. They're in it for the money and all that, the wrong reasons. But, you know, like once I started to hang out with Dave, it's like, I mean, he just had a soft heart, and all he wanted to do, the only thing he wanted to do was just help me be the best, you know, I could be in the gym. You know what I mean? And just pass on this knowledge that was passed on to him. Yeah. And I think if we can just get to the nitty gritty, just stick to the basics of, like, you know, you talked about these gifts that we have. Like, I feel like the gift of fitness has been given to me, not to you know, just keep to myself, but it's for me to pass it on to the next generation, man. Because fitness, specifically lifting weights, it's been such a powerful, tool. It's been such a powerful outlet for me. It's who I am, and it's like, how can I pass this on to the next generation? How can one kid, Ralph and Dave, poured into me, and it's like, dude, I went to college, got my exercise science degree, all this stuff, and it's like, this is what I'm choosing to do with my life. It's like, how can I pass this on to another kid or kids, right? And it's just, we've got to, as adults, I think it's important for us, Wes, just to stay focused on, again, kind of like just the basics, man, of going back to like, why am I here? What's that purpose? What's my meaning? Because everybody's going to try to tell us like why we're supposed to be doing this and why we're here. But it's like, for me, like at the end of the day, like when I go to sleep, like why is Quentin here? Why is Wes here? And I think when we stay focused on that, when we're in alignment with that for us personally, I feel like that's really where we can have that impact, and we can really just pour into, whether it's an adult's life or a child's life. You know what I mean? Just the purity of passing on what we've learned to other people, man.
I'm literally sitting over here shaking my head at everything you're saying. Yes, that's exactly right. I think we're supposed to live and experience and learn from that and think about that and pass this information on, and we're going to get wiser and wiser and wiser and pass on more information. And I don't mean better information. I mean like we're just gonna have more information, right?
Yeah.
Because it's always important to, like, we have an athlete that I just spoke to recently that has been competing at a national level for 4 or 5 years, and he was just talking about coaching, and he's like, well, I don't think I'm ready. I'm like, dude, you can help so many people. You can help so many people.
Right.
So your story, Quentin, can help a lot of people, man.
Right.
I think it's important to live your story,
Absolutely.
to live it, and then what you're doing right here is you're telling stories, man. And this is impactful, and so I know for myself, I've tended to be shy about my story. I've tended to like, well, it's not as good as so and so's story.
Right.
But it's my story.
Absolutely, man.
So and so I think you get to that point where you do, like, you just are living your story, and then you can share that experience. And if somebody gets something out of it, you feel really good about that. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's why the podcast exists, Wes, because I believe in the power of human beings sharing their story so strongly. Like it doesn't matter like how cool or uncool or great or ungreat your story is, like what you think about. It's like, I believe that everybody, has a story. And when human beings share their story, you never know the positive impact that story audibly shared is going to have on another human being. Because you've been through things that maybe, I've been through. And as you share your story and I share my story, it's like, hey man, we connect on that human level because we've shared some similar experiences. Or maybe you've gone through something and you share your story, Wes, and I haven't gone through that, but in 6 months, maybe I will. I'll go back and I'll draw from your story, like, hey, that's how Wes made it through. Or maybe you're sharing something and I'm going through, or somebody that's listening to this podcast right now, listen to your story, they're going through that right now. And because you've already been there, you've already experienced it, and this is like, hey, this is how I kind of made it through that life experience, that's going to positively impact another human being. It's going to help somebody else pull through, so to speak. So it's like, you hit the nail right on the head, and that's exactly why this podcast exists, is, for people to share their story. Because that's how, just through the generations, us human beings, valuable information has been passed on throughout the generations before all this technology and social media, just word of mouth, man. You look at like the Native American culture, valuable information for their cultures have been passed on, not through social media, not even necessarily through written, books and things like that, but through storytelling. You go to I spent a lot of times in South Dakota on, like the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, man, storytelling, so artistic, telling stories through paintings and pictures, but then, really the audible, so much power. So, okay, I want to kind of transition, Wes, into the story of 22nd Street Barbell. All right, so Wes, I just kind of want to get into just kind of the backstory of 22nd Street Barbell. We've, kind of touched on your story, your iron journey, like I said, I kind of like to call it, but, and you kind of alluded to, the group of guys, you guys you're training together and stuff like that, but, I really just kind of want you just to share again that backstory of 22nd Street Barbell, kind of like how did it start? Because it's become something pretty big now, right? And so I just want you to just kind of share from your perspective kind of the beginnings of it, and then how has it kind of become what it is today.
Yeah, we started as a group of lifters, probably mid-90s, that were lifting in garages and gyms of various members of the group, or garages and basements, of various members of the group. Kind of wore our welcome at each spot. Eventually made it to a commercial gym, which we'd wear our welcome, not asked to come back after a while. I think we got kicked out of probably 3 or 4 commercial gyms. Sometimes pretty eventful kickouts as well. We've had a couple trips to the emergency room out of commercial gyms. A lot of blood. We've had some experiences with it, but really we wanted a space for us just to be us, right? And once we weren't welcome at people's houses anymore, and commercial gyms were looking bleak and bleak and bleak, I had just started managing at Gold's Gym on 22nd Street. And there was this shipping dock in the back that was the size of this office that we're sitting in right now, probably 20 feet by 25 feet. It's not very big, and we just put our bench press in there, and we moved in there, and people were signing up for Gold's Gym just to use our equipment in the back because they wanted to train with us. So that at that point, the owners were like, "What's going on back there?" So I felt compelled we had a meeting and say, all right, if we want to compete as a team, we had people from other gyms, other trainers from other gyms coming and signing up with us at Gold's. So we didn't want to be Gold's Gym Powerlifting.
Right.
So we wanted a name for it, and we were on 22nd Street. So one of the members said, 22nd Street Barbell, and I think the next day I went and LLC'd it, and it was never intended to make money. It was never intention. It was just we wanted to be a formal team. And we knew that we needed to move it out of the back of that room. We kind of wore our welcome out there as well. So we went down to Southwest 5th Street, and one of the guys his dad had owned this building, and we got in the basement of this building, and we rented out the middle of this floor, and I mean the middle of this floor, the outside edges of this basement, of this really old, nasty basement, were rented out for bands to practice. And we were right in the middle. We had to partition our section off, and these guys had put up drywall. We put up a chain link fence. And it was in the basement of this warehouse with this chain link fence and 3 light bulbs and water dripping from the ceiling, and the bathroom was something that we loved it,
Of course.
It was our home,
Of
course. It was our identity.
Yeah.
It's who we were, as lifters. It was the dungeon, so we referred to it as the dungeon. And at that point, it grew from probably 15 people to 100 people, and it got to the point where the owner of the building was like, "How many people are coming down here?" So he goes, "It's probably time to look for something new for you." So again, we wore out our welcome.
Right.
We found a spot in Merle Hay Mall. It's the old laser tag place, and we rented out a section in there, and we expanded in a section in there after a while. Continued to grow in there. And meanwhile, I'm slowly transitioning out of Gold's Gym. And at that point, I started to bring all my clientele and do work full-time out of 22nd Street. And that transition wouldn't have happened without our move. Our move got us out of the dungeon, maybe not our mentality, but brought us into Merle Hay location. And the Merle Hay location was a lot cleaner. And I use cleaner as a pretty loose term.
Right, yeah.
But for us, it was a lot cleaner. and people come into this gym, we're like, man, this is hardcore. I'm like, dude, this is the softest version of us that we
right.
Like, and this is a nice facility,
of course.
But yeah, we have, this is a soft version of us. And so when we went to Rhoades, in my mind, we got a little bit softer, but it was needed in order for us to grow. So we're getting people into Rhoades Mall that probably never would have joined had we been down on Southwest 5th Street.
Of course, right.
So then it became more of a business for me, in the terms of like, I can make a living doing this, and I'm all in. And it wasn't just like a club on the side anymore. So it's how I pay my bills. It's how I eat my food, everything. So like everything changed at that point at Rhoades. Started looking at things from a revenue standpoint. But we're still having fun. We're still growing. We're still competing. We're still doing all these things. And at some point, we kind of, I realized that Rhoades' location wasn't going to do me any good long-term business-wise. And I broke my lease early and left to move to this spot. In that process, I got sued. So I went through about a 1.5 year long lawsuit, which was a wash for both parties. But I took a massive risk to do that.
Of course.
But I felt long term, was this location we needed to be. And each location has gotten a little bit bigger. This was like, we moved from one location to 1, 2, instead of going to 3, we went right to 5, right? Like we skipped 2 steps to move to this.
Right.
So it was a massive risk. And it's paid off. I'm glad I did it. But that at that time, like I think like anything you do that it's risk, like you kind of get forced there, and I felt forced there. I felt forced to, if I was really going to, and what forced me there was this idea of and tons of good people around me. This conversation doesn't exist without the support of people I have around me. But really, what I look back on this is, I would have thought, if I didn't do this and we just stayed at Rhoades, we'd still be fine. We'd still be in a good slot, probably making a decent amount of money, doing just fine. But if I didn't push it, I would look back and regret the damn thing.
Right.
So, because I had so many good people in my corner, just pulled the trigger on it. It didn't necessarily make a lot of sense financially, but we somehow figured it out, and now we're in a great spot. So I'm thankful for that.
Of course.
But yeah, so we're in a 7,000 square foot facility now, 5,000 gym, 2,000 office, kind of tucked back in the middle of nowhere. You were talking about when you pulled up, there's no signs or anything.
Yeah, that's when my mom came with me. She's like, this is the gym. There's no sign. I'm like, hey, Mom.
I think if you ask 100 people, how would you run a gym? And I think people say, well, you come up with a name and you get equipment. And then the question is, okay, how do you get the equipment, right? Oh, you get a loan out, and so you create debt, so you can have something to give to somebody, and then location becomes a big deal. So you put it in a location where people can get to, and you get to easy, and then you put a big sign out front so people can drive by and see it, and hey, I want to go there. And the more I think about what everybody would do, the more it gives me the 180 just to go completely opposite.
Of course.
So it's like, I don't want to be on the corner, and we want to be tucked back into the middle of nowhere. But a lot of that came from our history of how we started. We just wanted to be left the fuck alone. We just wanted people to leave us alone.
Right.
And when I left Gold's, when I left there and committed full time, I was pissed. I was pissed in the standpoint of like, I wanted a middle finger to the fitness world. If it had the word fitness in it, I hated it. Because we're the anti-fitness.
Right.
I have a way softer stance on that now, but that was massively important at the time because it gave us a certain amount of attitude.
Absolutely.
And we were the 1%ers of the gym population that hates all that fluffy stuff, and we wanted those guys and girls. But that's what we were. That's a massive identity for us. So my challenge and our challenge as a gym is how do we grow to a 7,000 square foot facility and gain more people and gain more attention without losing that edge, you know? Right. So I do think when I make moves, people are like, well, you should do this, you should do this. I'm like, that's what everybody thinks I should do. Mm-hmm. So when enough people tell me what I should do, I know it's definitely something I shouldn't do. You know, we got to do the 180 opposite of everybody else, which creates a whole vision plan for yourself, because you just allow somebody else to create the plan, and then you just do the opposite of what the hell they're doing. And so we had shirts in the beginning that said "fuck fitness," and the U was a shield with 22BB in it, you know. So, but that was our attitude, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So once that shirt hit, we had a Des fucking Moines shirt. We were proud to be from Des Moines. Like so we had like these but our apparel kind of did some talking, you know. And you just weren't buying a shirt; you were buying like a culture, you know. So that was what I wanted our gym to be, and that's who we were. It's like and it's been a challenge to just keep speaking to that you know. And as long as those core values are still there, now we're in a 7,000 square foot facility, but we have a sign that says "fuck your feelings."
Yeah.
You know, it says solve. We have another sign that says solve your problems with aggression. We are a gym of misfits. And what I've learned through this COVID thing, and I've known for this for a long time, but I didn't realize how evident and how thick it really was in our gym. We are a sanctuary for mental health in this place. We are a lot of former drug addicts, a lot of former alcoholics, a lot of people who AA's meeting are shut down, and this is how they got out, how they deal with problems. Probably more so than most gyms, or at least it's talked about more so in here, whether it's not or not. But I've learned a lot about our gym just being in this shutdown mode, and I've thought a lot about the history and what brought us together in the first place, and the core group of people. Because what if you lose your fringe members, you lose your people to go to the next facility, the next one, and that's great. Yeah. There's a lot of good facilities, there's a lot of great places. But why do people get a tattoo of 22nd Street Barbell on them? You know, people aren't getting tattoos of Aspen on them. You know, why do people have their handles in their Instagram with 22nd Street Barbell? Because it's meaning. Yeah. There's meaning. There's a tremendous amount of meaning. So I think it's important to talk about the history from that standpoint, because it gives it meaning. And I'm in the process of kind of going through some of the old stuff, and I look back and I'm like, God, we were some cocky fuckers, you know, like we were some bastards. Yeah. But it was important. It was massively important. And I think it's important for me to kind of tell that history through our gym, through our walls, having some old photos up and talking about that, and having some of the original guys and girls that were around talk about that and share those stories, and that happens on social media, and I love seeing that. But I look back at that and I think I was like just such a small part of all that. I was just a one little clog in that whole machine. It just took over, man. Like it just took over. Like everybody felt like this was ours. You know, taking ownership of it. I was just the guy that legally kind of just shoved it in the right direction and ushered it along. You know, but this massive ownership has led us to where we're at now, and I don't know what that means for our future. And this could be our forever home. You know, I don't know if that means a second location, and who cares if it ever does. But at least from my mindset right now, but to start from a dungy basement, and I think about other. You know, right now we have a nutritionist in here who runs an online business and does very well, and he's got a really nice office. It's like, you know, to think about him sitting in that office when at one time we were on a folding chair, shoulder to shoulder, sharing a closet that we made shift into an office that flooded a sewer system into it. Oh, man. And he would have clients come in there. You know, like, what do we do? You know, like we've created something here. You know,
absolutely.
And it was grassroots. We never got a loan out. And, you know, we never had the sign on the corner. We never had the flashy, hey, come look at me. We were always the 180. And the more everybody says that we should do something, the more we decided not to go the opposite. You know, think, okay, what would the masses do? And then let's just do the opposite. Yeah, and that was our business plan for a long time. Everybody wanted Coke, and we were the Pepsi saying, fuck you, you know? That's it. We were the Pepsi to the Coke. So, and it made it really easy. I didn't have to think much, you know? Like, I kept it really simple. I kept it really simple, but we were true to who we were.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We weren't trying to service everybody, you know? And I think that shift has changed a little bit. But truly, our gym still isn't for everybody. I wish everybody would have the same experience I have in here, but some people needed a bigger facility, a cleaner facility, better machines, all those things, the shinier stuff. Will never be that facility, and I don't want to be that facility.
Of course.
So when we started from 2011 to now, what is that, 9 years, coming up on 10 years of being an official business, and probably another 10 in front of that of just being a group of guys and girls that hung out on the weekends to lift weights, you know, like been doing this for 20 years, you know. I've been all in for myself for the last 9 years. I feel blessed. I think about something, if you look up something I've written on my wall, like I imagine myself in my dad's basement sitting around with all those workouts hung on the wall from Flex magazine that I cut out and pasted to a sheet of paper and then made notes on. And if you look around my office, that's the same shit I have now. I'm 40 years old. Like, that's like, I'm so true to who I want to be and what I wanted to do. I've let that kind of be my guide. And if I have too many days where I'm going against that, and I've had jobs where I've gone against that, so, and I know I'm on the wrong path, you know. But just being true to, you know, with money was never a thing. You know, what the hell would that little kid in you want to do? You know, and this would have been it right here. I'd be so happy if I told you this would, you know, I would have looked back and said this to myself at 8 or 12 years old. But,
right.
You know, so I think I'm very grateful for that. And the COVID thing makes you think like, man, it makes you even more grateful for it. You're like, this can be gone like that.
Absolutely.
But it also brings you back to like the people that were doing it before it was a big deal. The people were, you know, and it goes back to that community, that your inner circle of people, your inner circle. So when I say I was just this little part of that, man, I was just one dude in that little circle, you know. So that's kind of full deal where we've come from and where we're at right now.
I wanna. Okay, so there's obviously you just shared kind of like the evolution story of 22nd Street Barbell, and you've been on this journey along with 22nd Street Barbell, right, from the beginning, even before it existed. And I just I mean, we don't know each other personally. Like, we follow each other on social media. Our paths have crossed a couple times, but we don't know each other really at all. But I just you sharing this part of your story in terms of the evolution of 22nd Street Barbell, I get this sense, Wes, that who you are today is not the same Wes you were in the beginning of this 22nd Street Barbell journey. So as 22nd Street Barbell has evolved, and we're sitting in this location where it's at today, how have you evolved? How have you changed? Because I feel like you have changed. You have evolved. I feel like you're the type of human being, you seek knowledge. You do listen. You want to grow. You want to mature. You never want to be the same individual you were the day before. I feel like that's the type of individual you are. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I feel just in the couple times that we've had, you know, some conversation, right? So as 22nd Street Barbell has evolved, and maybe it's not quite, you know, the nitty gritty as it was like in the basement or, you know, 20 years ago, whatever, because times change, people change. But I really want to hear your side of the story in the sense of how have you evolved? How have you changed? How have you grown? How have you matured? Because I believe this business, this gym, this passion project, as you evolve, it's going to evolve. So how have you evolved? What have you learned over the 10, 15, 20 years of being involved with, the powerlifting, the gym, and all of this?
I like that term, passion project. That's good. I think that, trying to think of a really simple way to put this, I think that the things that I'm known for best, like we talked about this in the beginning, the things I'm known for best aren't exactly the most important things in my life. And I would be known for my lifting or starting this gym or pushing 22nd Street or they're massively important in my life, but they're not really who I am.
Of course.
Like to the sense of and they're not really like something that I would hear like I want people to remember me like long term from like so it's like some of the things that you're known for, like you get known for it, like you get some recognition for it, maybe aren't the closest things to your heart, so with that being said, it's, at one time it was the most important thing, so it shifted to a lot of different things in my life. I get plenty of meaning from, and that's evolved just through, like what you talked about is just coming up, and just doing trying to strangle everything to death, so I've got a massive amount of meaning out of just different areas of my life, but most notably this idea that it's not about being perfect with anything. So it's like we try to eliminate this side. We try to eliminate the other side of the coin. So we want to be perfect at things, but we don't understand. We're always trying to eliminate all the wrongs, right? But the wrongs are always a part of the process. You can't have the goods without the wrongs. So you have to experience the wrongs. So even now, today, as a man, I hurt people's feelings. I'm an asshole sometimes. I'm impatient, insecure. So it's like accepting those things and knowing this is part of the process, and learning from those things. Falling down, doing these things time after time again, and trying to learn from them. So I think that's the foundation that I got from the gym that I've taken to my everyday life and I do feel compelled to be the best version of me. I feel massively compelled to do that. And I don't always give that best representation to a lot of people. And those are the ones that you hold on to, the ones that you don't give that representation to. So it's, I want to be true to myself, but I feel massively compelled to be the best possible human I can be. And I feel motivated waking up every day for that. Where before it was motivated by 22nd Street. Right. So now it's just motivated by me waking up and just squeezing that orange, what do I need to do mentally, physically, to be the best version of myself, and like I said, it's easy to, so when we plan like a lifting plan, and a lot of coaches do this, and we talk about, I say, hey, Quentin, I want you say, I want to deadlift 600 pounds, and I say, all right, here's your plan. Here's your, and what we're doing as coaches, we're programming a stress into your life, right? Well, that's the easy part. It's how you respond to that stress is how it's going to predict the outcome. So it's the SRA curve. It's the stimulus, recovery, adaptation. So we're really good at focusing on the stressors, and we're really good at programming the stressors. So think about this in everything about our life. We're really good at thinking about the things that we need to do, but we never really take in consideration, what about the recovery from it? What about my response, my physical and mental and emotional chemical response to that stress, right? So in the same terms of like being the best human I can be, you know, it's like we say, well, it's about being the best, you know, it's about being only experiencing these good things. No, it's not. It's about having these negative experiences, about doing some of the hard talks. It's about being an asshole and not like, it's about being these things and it's about experiencing these things and learning from it and growing from it, because those things are huge, massive tools that gives you the other side of that coin, you know. But we find this guilty, and I see this, we're really guilty as coaches doing this a lot, is only talking about the stressors. So we say, hey, I want you to lift 4 days a week. So I just told you you're taking 3 days off. You know, so in your head, you're like, shit, I gotta take 3 days off. So you're like, I'm not getting better those 3 days. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, yes we are. Let's go. You're lifting 4 days a week, but you're training 7 days. Those 3 days are planned recovery days.
Right.
Those are as critical to your performance as the 4 lifting days are. So as a man, my experiences of being insecure, my experiences of doing wrongs to people, my experiences of being an asshole, of doing those things, are massive tools, and they're programmed into my success. So whatever successes I have are become because I've persevered through some of those things, and I've dealt with some of those things, and say, all right, what can I learn from this? You know, what meaning can I pull out of this? And how to but to say I'm going to avoid them altogether, and so then we create a life of nothing but good things, and then we have hierarchies of good. And then now we're creating a new bad. So it's very meaningful to have these experiences. So that's what I've taken away from this, just looking at this huge picture of it, is looking at it. It all has massive amounts of meaning, you know, and not trying to eliminate anything. Oh, this is clear as mud right there for you.
No, it's your story. Yeah, it's from your perspective. Now, what when you're just, you know, alone with your own thoughts in terms of 22nd Street Barbell, what is do you have like a long-term vision in terms of like what you kind of want the gym to become or continue to be, or are you just kind of living in the moment and allowing it just to be whatever it's going to become?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so if you ask 100 people, you know, one of the first questions is, what's your long-term vision for what it is you want to be, right? And so you rattle off this thing that you want it to be, and and 3 years down the road, you're nothing like that, and you're like, that was a dumb fucking idea, right? Like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, how am I supposed to know what I want to be in 10 fucking years, right? So, like, again, you go back to your values. You go back to the root. So my 10-year focus is to maintain the reason why we started this forever ago. Is to keep that core, you know, and wherever that leads to, who knows? We don't know.
Right.
And whatever I would predict would probably be massively undershot. Because if you would have said to me 10 years ago when we were lifting in a buddy's basement and his wife yelling down at us that we can't cuss, that we'd be in a 7,000 square foot facility with 200 members, I'd say you'd fucking lying. And I never would have dreamed that. So why would I put a limitation on myself for another 10 years? So I think it's so the focus is, like you talked about, getting to the core of finding out what really is true, not fake true, what is really true, and just doing that, being that, maintaining that. Yeah, and that bumps into people that may not agree with that, and that's okay.
Right.
Because that gives us boundaries in our life. Just like the bad gives us boundaries. You know, you fuck up, but you don't fuck up too much. You hit the edge of fuck up. You don't allow yourself, and you back off, and you come over, and you experience good, but you don't really go to the cock, you know, like the overly, you have a boundary in your life. And it creates this full, like, yin-yang of a lifestyle, you know? So, and people are like, well, I'm just going with the flow. No, I'm not. I'm massively focused. I'm massively focused. So it's like people's like, I can't just go with the flow. Yeah, you can. It's the boundary of It's this boundary of like full chaos and full control. And those are your edges. And you fly close to them and you come back and you fly close. But they're meaningful because it gives you boundaries and it gives you direction. Without these sides, you're out of control. You don't have focus. So it is the chaos and it is the order that creates the boundary and it creates direction. So I think that's my job is to say, oh, we're too far this way. Let's pull back. Hey, we're getting too cocky here. Let's pull back. Boom, 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 boom. Let's be here. And so as long as we can keep doing that, and I can keep doing that as a human, I'm sure I'll be happy with where we'll be. So,
what's something that coaching in terms of coaching? It could be adult, it could be a younger person, but just in terms of the umbrella of coaching, what has that really taught you personally, Wes?
Yeah, man, so fucking much. So much. I think once you decide to teach something, it forces you. I want to see how you see the damn thing. I want to see how you, Quentin, see this activity, right? I want to be in your eyes. And what is it? How can I verbalize what I know to give to you, right? Like, that's the challenge, is communication challenge of like, how do I get out what I know to make you understand this, right? And I think I've gotten better at that over the years. Like maybe it would take this whole dry erase board for me to fill it up to explain to you how to squat. Now I can do it in boom, boom, 3 steps. Like I can think 10 steps ahead of, by which questions you're asking, I think there. So I think when you're committed to teaching something, you're really committing to mastery of something. And I think if you're never intending on teaching it, you don't think of it from all the angles you need to think of it from.
Great point.
But this is idea of mastery. But again, that's the in-mountain goal of this probably this unattainable peak that I'll never get to, that maybe some podcast another 50 years from now we'll be talking about, Wes, really laid out for, and that's okay. My focus is on the minute details of the process, and so coaching has massively forced that, and that's to the core of what makes me massively happy. And so I'm thankful that I get to do that, and I'm thankful that I have athletes and people that want to be coached like that, because you have to want that information. And we can have real serious talks about things that really aren't massively that important in life, right? And it's fun. It's so fun. So that's where I get out of coaching. That is, but I'm so thankful to have athletes that want to be coached like that. And not everybody wants to be coached like that. Not all my clients want to be coached like that. Right. But I have enough of those conversations that all day long that, people take this seriously, and we definitely do. And I think it's really humbling as a coach to say, I'm always learning. I'm learning from that complete beginner that walks in, because they're seeing it different. I want to know, how the fuck are you seeing this thing? I want to know. I want to learn from, how can I verbalize this for you to get you to see? And as your experience and you get more knowledgeable in this, and you talk to other coaches, and you're going to teach me more and more and more. And I'm learning just as much as I am from the complete beginner as somebody who's done it as long as Dale Rhoades has done it, But definitely humbles me to the point of where I feel humbled by the process of mastery.
Do you care at all, like, what people think about you or how they perceive you?
Honestly, I don't think it's in my fucking business. I mean, really, if I'm focused on me and I'm working, anytime that finger starts to go, look at what that finger's pointing outwardly, you know, what I know from my experiences now is really that finger's pointing into a mirror at that person. So somebody has to allow for me to be a problem with them, right? Like somebody, that's an insecurity within that person that allows that for me to be a problem. And I'll get caught up into that learned helplessness that we had talked about earlier. This learned helplessness of that we kind of create this culture of pointing a finger, of looking at what this person's doing. Look. And we start pointing that finger. And I remind myself, point that finger into a mirror. Back to me. Take ownership of it. I want people like me. I genuinely want to give joy to people. I genuinely want to have good experiences with people. But is that the useful tool? What if it could be a thorn in somebody's side? What if I can be that coach that just provoked enough to say, for the athlete to say, fuck you, I'm going to do it because in spite of you, then I serve my purpose, right? So it isn't about being perfect and beautiful with them, right? Like it's a mess sometimes. But no, I try not to care because I don't think it's any of my business what some other people think of me.
Right. The word identity, like when you've been sharing your story, and we're gonna head towards the finish line here, Wes, because we've been going for a long time, and thank you for providing your time, sharing your time with me and the listeners. But so that word identity, you know, that's something, as you've shared your story and your earlier years getting into powerlifting and 22nd Street Barbell, I think that there was like, you know, the powerlifting in the gym, like that was your identity at one point. Is that fair to say or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So that identity, what is the and I'm sure you do think about this because I know you're an intellectual, deep thinking dude, but identity, like what is the identity that you identify with or you're trying to create or put out there now? If it's not the powerlifting, if it's not 22nd Street Barbell, like we all have some sort of identity. Does that make sense? I mean, is there something when you're alone with your thoughts, it's like what do you want to put out there? What do you want people to, you know, again, maybe not necessarily think about you, but like what's the identity in terms of like this is Wes Keith. Like this is what I'm gonna own this identity. Because again, the powerlifting, that was like at one point that was Wes Keith. This is my identity. 22nd Street Barbell. This is my identity. Kind of that middle finger to the world. Like I don't care. F you. I'm doing Wes Keith. That's my identity. But I don't feel like that's your identity any longer. Maybe it's a part of it. But what is that identity that you're pursuing or that identity that you want to create today?
Yeah. I probably think about this a lot. I would say that it's that duality, this world of chasing this idea of like the most ideal version of yourself.
Right.
And you know, and then what the hell does that mean? You know, so then you have to define that. So you go down this rabbit hole of defining what is the most ideal, and it's like the 10-year question. You know, it's like, am I going to underestimate this? Fuck yes, I am. Yeah. So fuck yes, I am. So I'm going to massively underestimate my own. So you have to just be in this like constant learning mode of I can learn from all my experiences. I can learn from all of my quote bad things, right? But they're necessary. We got to quit eliminating. So my meaning and my identity is just this is to really just be. And I don't mean that in a lazy way of I'm doing nothing. Like I want to collect experiences and I want to not judge those experiences. And I want to have quote unquote good and bad experiences, you know, like, and I want to stack them up. I want to stack them up fucking through this roof, right? Like I want to stack up as many experiences as anybody's ever stacked up in their entire lives. And I want to go to my grave with thousands of experiences I didn't get to, right? Like that's what gives me massive amount of meaning. And I feel like I want to wake up every morning and I'm like leaving here and we're going disc golfing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's boom, stack it. I want to jam pack my days full of experiences, and I want to do, but that's not always beautiful.
Right.
Like, we always want that, like, oh, this is the great side of it. Like, no, like, it's really ugly. A lot of times it is.
For sure.
So, but that's important. But that's it. That's what gives. That's my identity. That's when I feel the most me is, and it could be a lot of different things. So like you ask me like, what am I into? Like I can talk to you about 30 different things I'm into right now.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really me to who it is. You know, at one time it was massively me about powerlifting, and it's still massively important in my life. But there's 29 other things that I want to do.
It's not everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so finishing up here, the tattoos. I brought this up in our last conversation. How do tattoos play into your life in the sense of like first of all, you know, and I know because I have them, you know, my reasons of getting tattoos changes over life, right? Just like everything else. But like what's the tattoos? Like why has that been a part of your life? Why is it a part of your life? Why do you appreciate them or not?
I think, you know, last time I mentioned a story that I was talking to one of the guys that works here is who does that's the nutrition guy I mentioned earlier, and he is wicked smart. He's never had another job, right? Like this is what he's done since 16. He's been a trainer. He's been some kind of coach since the age of 16. Like he's like done this for he's in his mid 30s now. So like this is what he does.
Yeah.
You know? And he's really fucking good at it. He's if I always tease him, I'm like, if you were covered in tattoos all the way to your fingers, all the way to your neck, you'd be in every fucking magazine in America. Right? But you're not. Like you're just this lace up straight white boy.
Right.
But he's wicked smart, you know? So tattoos, I learned at a young age, gave me significance. Whether it was earned or not, it gave me significance.
Interesting.
And as a young male, that is one of the emotional needs that you're definitely seeking. Significance. You want to feel like you stand out. And tattoos was a really easy, cheap way to do that. So a lot of my tattoos that I got in the beginning are now covered up because I have different meanings and I have different appreciation for the art form of them now.
Right.
But in the beginning it was. You know, why did I want that tattoo on me? I thought, I wanted significance. I didn't care. The tattoo, what it was irrelevant. It was on me.
Right.
And people could see it. Yeah, so it does play into that. It plays into our culture a little bit. But I think that culture has become more mainstream.
Of course it has. Yeah.
So, but in the beginning it was massively important to have that image, you know. And I think everybody had that image, and that's probably led into more tattoos, you know. But you know, my experience with tattoos now are definitely from more of an art form perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Is there anything? You know, again, we've had a thorough conversation, Wes. Is there anything that you kind of like want to share? Is there anything that's kind of some stuff, you know, that you've been thinking about lately, maybe pondering, that you're just like, you know what, this is a great opportunity maybe for me to share this, maybe, you know, like a message, a few words, you know, anything that we didn't discuss today that you feel like it's pertinent and it's important for you to share it with the listeners and with the world?
Yeah, you know, when you asked me to redo this again, well, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, you asked this again. I thought about how far you've come with this. I thought about how far like you've pushed this thing, right? And I thought about all the people, all my mentors, and all the people that I looked up to in the sport, and all my coaches I've had, and all the different people who were pushing and grinding and trying to figure stuff out and how to get better, and all these stories. You know, you learn something from talking to so many of these people, and they all have stories, but we're all too shy to tell these damn stories for the fear of rejectment, for the fear of, you know, of looking stupid, And it takes a passionate, hungry, compassionate, empathetic person like yourself to bring these stories out of people. So I want to thank you for keep pushing this, man, because this was a thing that you just started where you're just like, and probably you had 100 people around you thinking, hey, nice job, but really they thought, that's not fucking being. Right? You know?
Probably.
And so keep doing it, man. Like,
thank you.
Yeah, like I appreciate you more than you know, so thank you.
I love it, and you know, I know you've sent me some different messages, you know, over the last year, just saying, hey, keep it up, bro, love what you're doing. You know, so I appreciate you recognizing that, because a lot of times when you're in the midst of your, what I like to call the passion project, you're not doing it, just like we talked about earlier, Wes, like, you know, with the some of the, you know, the Dale Rhoadeses and the Dave Lawrences and some of these people that were impactful in our lives, just passing on knowledge, coaching us for free, whatever. You're just doing it because you're passionate about it. It sets your soul on fire. You love it. You want to serve people and help people. But it's always cool when somebody says, hey, bro, or hey, dude, like, keep it up. Like, I see you. You know, I get some messages from people that I care about, you know, throughout my life, and they'll send me a message, hey, man, I love what you're doing on the podcast. Like, it's great, man. It's great. So I appreciate you recognizing that. And, you know, it's just become something that has taught me so much about myself, and it's taught me so much about other human beings. Because I like to talk, and I can carry on this conversation, but this has forced me, Wes, to shut up and to listen, you know, and there is so much power in the human experience when a human being shuts up and they listen and they allow another human being to share what's on their heart, what's in their heart, what their story is, man. Because I'm sure you see this with the coaching. It's like, man, like you can coach and like talk, but man, there's something about allowing your client or, you know, a friend or whoever it is to kind of share their perspective. I learned that through teaching in a public school setting. It's like, man, like I can tell these kids, but how about I be quiet and let them talk? You know what I mean? So thank you, and it's just an amazing life experience that I've learned so much from. You know what I mean? So I kind of just want to wrap it up with one final question. We've kind of you know, I kind of like to end things with what sets your soul on fire. You've already really, you know, talked about, you know, just connecting with people and things like that. But if I, you know, I'm not going to ask about legacy, but like what's that thing that you hope, you know, when your time on this earth is up, what's that one thing when somebody brings up Wes Keith, you know, they're reminiscing about the old days of 22nd Street Barbell, and they talk about you, Wes. What's that one thing that you hope people remember you by or for?
Love. Yeah. In the sense of loving yourself is asking, the best expression of love we can give to somebody else is to love yourself enough that you'll squeeze that orange. You'll work on yourself enough. One of the biggest things of showing of love is self-discipline. You know, you show yourself self-discipline, you're showing yourself love, and that provides hope for other people. And that makes you more apt to love somebody else and share that love when you do love yourself. So that's an easy one. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's funny because I'm just like, well, if people want to find out where the gym's at and all that, maybe you don't want people to find out where the gym is, but if somebody wants to find out more, Wes, you know, about you, if they want to find out more about 22nd Street Barbell, I know, which please feel free to share about, I know you and some of your friends, you guys put on powerlifting meets here in the state of Iowa. So where can people find out more about you? Where can they find out about the gym? If you want them to find out about the gym, if people want to find out about maybe some of the upcoming powerlifting meets that you guys are hosting and all of that, where do you want to send people?
Yeah, the website, 22barbell.com, has most of it. Instagram has been huge for us. Follow us on Instagram and the website. Facebook's been a useful tool, but mainly Instagram, I would say, would be the main focus. Powerlifting meets are all posted, links off there. So that'd be the main sources.
Cool. And if they want to find the gym, they'll find it, right?
That's right.
I love it. Yeah.
Those are too hard of questions. There's some surface level questions
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can, if I have to answer that surface level question for you, you probably don't want it.
It's just some general questions I asked or we have at the
fuck
end.
you,
Right?
go to Aspen. That's my answer.
I love it, man. So cool. So thank you, Wes.
Yeah.
I've kind of already thanked you at the beginning, but again, man, I appreciate you being able to take the time to do round 2 with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you just being raw, being real. I didn't expect anything less. Thank you for sharing the story of not only your life, but kind of the life of 22nd Street Barbell, because there is something unique here. There is something special, and I know that you're impacting hundreds, if not thousands, of people's lives up to this point and in the future. So, just man to man, I just want to say that I appreciate you, and I thank you for who you are and who you're pursuing to become. And I thank you for just what you're doing in the community here in the Des Moines area, but also in the state of Iowa. So,
Yeah. Likewise, I'm humbled by this experience.
cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. 127 Fit podcast listeners, I just want to thank you again so very much for your listening ears. They're always greatly appreciated. If you would like to find out more about the guests that I'm bringing onto the podcast, or if you'd like to find out a little bit more about myself personally, you can find all of that information on Instagram at 127fit. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. LinkedIn is at Quentin Vars. If you guys would do me a huge favor and please leave a 5-star rating and review, and also subscribe to the podcast, especially within the iTunes Apple Podcast app. That would be super cool. If you think you would be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance you think would be a great guest or guest for the 127 Fit podcast, you can just send me an email or give this email out. The email is 127fit@gmail.com. And one more favor I would just ask of you guys is, if you are, which I know you are, finding great value in a specific episode or episodes of the 127 Fit podcast, just take that specific episode or episodes that you're finding that great value in and share it on your Facebook and Instagram stories using the hashtag #BeSomeoneToFollow. And per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, "If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small." This time, until next time, I will catch you guys later.